Thank you for watching this Hexagon Geospatial e-training module, Configure a Cluster Point Symbolizer in GeoMedia Smart Client. In this module, you'll learn how to create a cluster point symbolizer, make adjustments to the symbolizer in GeoMedia Smart Client Administrator, and see the symbolizer results in GeoMedia Smart Client. A cluster point symbol can display multiple points of interest that would otherwise be too close together to view individually. Use the Symbol Style Editor tool to create and prepare styles based on OGC Symbology Encoding SE standards. First, create a cluster point symbolizer starting with GeoMedia Smart Client Administrator open and an existing library selected. A library stores individual symbol definitions. You can define a new one or import a predefined symbology library. Under Symbology Definition, click Add. Because we want to use the Symbol Style Editor, click From Editor. In the Name field, enter clusterpoint_e-training as the name of the symbolizer. In the Symbology type, select Cluster Point from the list. Click Load Editor. This opens the Symbol Style Editor. In the Scale Areas pane, click the Cluster Point option. Notice the pane to the right loads a number of settings to define the cluster point. The threshold setting defines the minimum number of points needed to create the cluster point. In this case, there must be 2 or more points very close to the same location. Minimum gap is the minimum distance between 2 elements that should be considered. There are 3 object types to define in a cluster point. First is the point, second is the text within the point, and third is the style of the exploded cluster when you click on one of the cluster points. Here, create a point type cluster point symbol. In the Cluster Point pane, click the point icon to open the Point Symbolizer Editor pane. In the Preview pane, note the square symbol. To change it to a circle, edit the symbol. Click the pencil icon in the Graphic option to open the Symbol Editor pane. Change the size to 26. To change the mark type or shape of the symbol, click the star icon. Select a circle from the point type list. To change the fill of the symbol, click the pencil icon in the Fill option. Click the Color Chooser to open the Color dialog. Click the RGB tab. We want to define hexagon blue. So in the Color Code option, enter 0097BA. Note that the new color shows in the Preview section. Click OK. In the Preview pane, notice the fill of the circle symbol has changed to blue. Now add some text. Back in the Cluster Point pane, click the Edit Text icon. In the Preview pane, inside the circle symbol, you can now see the threshold number 2. The size of the number is a little too small. In the Cluster Point pane, next to Size, enter 16. The size of the number has increased. To go back to the main pane for editing a cluster point, click the Cluster Point breadcrumb text at the top of the Cluster Point pane. Let's see what the cluster point would look like if it's exploded. In other words, how the symbol will portray each of the individual points inside it. In the Preview pane, click the graphic to see what the symbol looks like when it's exploded. Now define some options. In the Cluster Point pane, click the symbol icon to open the exploded cluster pane. Click the stroke icon. Now a circle connects the 2 points. Click the circle icon to define an outline. A new outline is drawn around the stroke and the outline pane opens. Go back to the exploded cluster pane. Click the dash icon in the stroke option to delete the stroke. Now add a fill to the outline. Click the fill icon to open the fill pane. Click the color chooser to open the color dialog. Click the swatches tab. Click the white swatch and click OK. A white fill color box makes it easier to see when there's a raster image underneath. If the fill is set to the default transparent instead of white, it's difficult to see the exploded cluster points because of the multiple colors underneath displaying through the transparent fill. Click Save. The symbology is saved to the library as clusterpoint_e-training. Now assign the symbology to a feature. In this case, we'll use an existing feature. From the Administrator left panel menu, click Features. The Features list opens. Locate the existing Fire Cluster Point feature. Click it to open the General tab of the Fire Cluster Point feature definition options. It's important to change the interpretation from default to cluster point because the cluster point type of symbolizer is available solely for point type features. For example, you're not able to assign a cluster point to an area feature or a line feature. The interpretation defines how the feature is represented when the map is displayed. Click the list to change the interpretation from default to cluster point. Click the Symbols tab. For the common point features in this example, there are thematic legend entries for two types of fires: human-caused fires and nature-caused fires. When the interpretation option is set to cluster point, the Add Cluster Symbol button becomes available. Click the Add Cluster Symbol button. In the Library option, select eTraining. In the Cluster Symbol option, select Cluster Point _ eTraining. Click Save. To save the new feature, again click Save. Now assign the new feature to a theme in the legend. From the Administrator left panel menu, under Project, click Current Las Vegas to open the definition options for the project. Click the Legend tab. Note that the fire cluster point already exists in the project legend list. Now assign visualizing rights, that is, permissions, for the feature when it's displayed in Smart Client. From the Administrator left panel menu, under Security, click Roles. Under Name, select the Las Vegas project. Click the Features tab. Under the Feature filter, select Las Vegas from the project to load the features list. If you want the user to be able to see only the cluster point itself that shows the total number of fires, you can set the right of the feature to Visualize. This allows the user to show or hide the cluster point. In this example, we want the user to be able to click on the cluster point and open it to see the exploded cluster point symbol. In the list, locate the Fire Cluster Point feature ID 48. In the right column, notice that the right is set to Activate. Now the user can activate the feature in order to do actions or queries. If you can't set the feature right to activate, then verify the button is set to Is Locatable. From the Administrator left panel menu, under Feature, click Current Fire Cluster Point. Under Settings, find the Is Locatable checkbox and make sure it's checked. Now see how the fire cluster points display in GeoMedia Smart Client. Here we've logged into Smart Client, and in the raster layer, Bing Maps Road layer is visible. To add the cluster point theme layer, in the legend, go to the theme Cluster Point. Expand the cluster point legend entry. Expand the fire cluster point entry. Notice that there are three parts to the fire cluster point: cluster symbol, as well as the common point symbols default and nature fire. Now display the fire cluster points on the map. Click the fire cluster point to load the fire cluster point symbols to the map. This is what the map looks like for a user when the feature right is set to Visualize. Notice the circles with numbers inside them, which indicate how many fires are represented within that point. It's also possible to activate the visualizing rights to the feature. In the legend, right-click Fire Cluster Point to open the Visualize menu. Click Set Active. Now click a cluster point on the map to open the exploded cluster point symbol. Open as many as you like to see the results. Right-click on the map to open a menu and select Clear Cluster Point Selection to close all of the exploded cluster points. Thank you for watching this e-training module from Hexagon Geospatial. For more e-training, please visit hexagongeospatial.com/etraining.